with everything that we've seen unfolding politically since 2016, how concerned should we be about what's coming next?
Pretty extremely. The real question will come down to this. So the typical socialist answer is like, we have to focus on instilling the revolutionary spirit in people. I don't think that's our main priority. I think our main priority has to be stopping fascism. It's a one step at a time kind of thing. Socialists are pretty good at advocating for their rights and interests in a bourgeois democratic society because all of the principles of liberalism are better extolled by socialism than they are by, well, capitalism. You want freedom, you want democracy, you want equality. Okay, well, we rep that. But in a fascist society, none of those things are valued, and we lose a lot of our explanatory and persuasive powers. At that point, it's a fight for survival. A fight we lose, by the way. The socialists in Nazi Germany, they lost that fight. They're all dead now, mixed in with the rest of the mass graves. So we need to focus first and foremost on preventing fascism. And in order for that to happen, we need to unite everyone in this country who is not a Republican against everyone, well, not against everyone who is, because it's not the people who are a problem, but against the institutions, the power centers, and the leaders that are doing everything they can to undermine our democracy. Ideally, it wouldn't be everyone versus Republicans. The best version would be every non-fascist versus all the fascists. That would be a more directed play, because there are Republicans, many of them, millions and millions of them. They may support Trump or whatever, but I believe in my heart of hearts, if you sit them down and if you talk to them, you can get them to see reason, and you can get them to at least be like moderates, you know? I do believe that. They're led by fear constantly every day of their life. The media they consume, like a carrot and a stick, it drags them across the breadth of this country, terrified of this or of that, of race mixing and integration one day, but then the next day it's critical race theory and Black Lives Matter protesters and Antifa, and the words change, but the sentiment never does. But the country is getting more left-leaning. Not just in terms of the left-leaning people themselves getting more left-leaning, but more people are agreeing more to left-leaning positions. We're winning that fight. We just don't have much power politically because the way the Senate and the Electoral College work really disproportionately benefit Republicans, and also they're way better at getting more of their people to vote because a lot of their people are older and richer, which means they're more likely to be able to vote or have the time to vote, or et cetera, et cetera. There are a ton of institutional biases against us. But numbers... we have numbers, far more than them. I think it's 35% of the country. That's 1/3 of the country that's Republican. And of that third, if you gave them a moment to think, how many of them would continue to support the overtly anti-democratic behavior of their party? I really do believe you can get a lot of them, because you talk to a lot of them too. They'll do the apologetics. You talk to one of them about Marjorie Taylor Greene, and they'll be like, yeah, we know, you know. They'll be like, yeah, okay. You talk to them about some of the stuff that Trump does and says, and they'll be like, yeah, we know. But then they'll be like, but we're still afraid of BLM. We're still afraid of China. We still want our jobs back. We still want this. We still want that. If you get them to focus on the right arguments, you can move them away. And every time we do that, we make the battle a little bit easier. Every time we convince a left-leaning person, a Democrat, or an independent that we are fighting a war for our existence, we're making things a little bit easier for ourselves. And God willing, we do this quickly, too, because we don't have that much time. With climate change advancing at the rate that it is, eventually we're going to start seeing resource wars and mass climate migration patterns in the tune of hundreds of millions of people. They're going to come to this country from the south. They're going to come to China from pretty much every which way. And there will be wars fought at the borders. There will be mass graves dug out right along the U.S.-Mexican border that we will kick corpses into. This is already going to happen. It's definitely going to happen. There's no other way. We're past the point of no return on that, okay? But the fundamental question is, okay, does this crisis plummet the world into ethno-nationalism, war, chaos, and nuclear oblivion? Or do the democracies in this world, and the more reasonable autocracies, survive long enough to form some kind of stable international pact to minimize death and chaos, to minimize destruction, and to make sure that humanity gets to survive to the 22nd century? And that is what I'm looking towards right now. And if socialists have to gut up for a second and say, okay, this isn't quite the socialist revolution that I wanted, but I do want to make sure the planet survives, I do want to make sure that fascists aren't the one deciding the fate of the planet when it really comes down to the wire. Then we got to make do with what we have. We got to do work we didn't want to do. And that's why I'm so adamant on not alienating Democrat liberals. As irritating as they often are, they are also, most of them at least, not fascists. So that's the line right now, you know? And this is not an anti-Republican sentiment, by the way. I just want to say we're not
right.
When we say we need to fight against you, I mean like your ideas will run us into a rock wall. You know, like I'm not. With me being anti them is them with their hands on the steering wheel driving us at 130 miles per hour into a concrete divider, and me fighting them is grabbing the wheel and trying to drag it not towards that divider. That's the fighting. I'm fighting for political power so they don't die in 30 years either. Okay? That's what right. I'm fighting for right now. This is not about being anti them. It's being anti their ideas. And even the most ridiculously far-right conservative nationalist has a right to live in a country that I would lead. I would not have a right to live under their country. So that's the fundamental difference right there. Even if you gave me, hypothetically, whatever, us, all the power you could get, I would want that to be used to preserve life for everyone, not as part of some weird war of extermination that I feel like we're on the cusp of having to defend ourselves against.